Hi, my name is Chris Claremont. You're watching OMNI X-Men and the second.
What is up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. We are back with another episode of OMNI X-Men. We're breaking down this book right here. I do have a copy, X-Men 170. Can't wait to dive into this. And of course, when I say we, I don't just mean me. I have my good friend and co-host, John from John's Comics with Kids. John, what is up, man?
Baby, we got
There it
Storm
is.
on the cover. We got fighting. And
great.
you forgot your intro. What's that all about?
It's all great. You know, I was like,
we're running late. I don't have time for intros. We got to get
jump
into
right
the
into. Well, you know, what do you need when you got Chris Claremont? You know, you got him to introduce. So I figure that's all the good right there. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I just started my spring break, so no work tomorrow. I'm very excited.
Oh man,
that means we can do the 10-hour show you've always wanted to do.
All right, perfect. Yes, this is great. Hope everybody's ready. Got your popcorn and your drinks. Well, this is perfect because we have a special guest tonight. I say special guest because one, he's never been on my channel before. Two, he's never been on a lot of people's channels before, and yet I feel like he's very well in the community and active within the comic book YouTube community and the chats and everything else. And he's been a great supporter of mine. I know he's, hung out and talked with you and your channel and chats before as well. So of course we're talking about our good friend, Gore Vidal, my man, Gore. What is up, my friend?
Good evening, Justin. John, how are you?
Great, man. Great.
Very
so
well,
excited
man.
to have you on.
Excited to have you here, man.
No, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for indulging me. And if JP is here, JP, it's not John's fault that they're late. It's my fault. And as you know, in the past, I've had internet issues, and I'm hoping there won't be an issue here. But if something happens, it's my fault. It's
all good.
Fault or Justin's.
All
but
good.
I'm glad to be here. It's good to see all of you.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. And are you ready to talk Saga tonight, right, Gore? I got my books. I got my nice hardcover.
I knew I should have filed an injunction.
You're not allowed to say the S word with Gore on the show.
That is the other four-letter word. I mean, there's love, there's hate, but there's one which is even worse.
Yeah, way worse. Way
but
worse.
I don't blame you because the forces of Brian K. Vaughan are legion.
They are. They really are.
All right. Well, as we said here, OMNI X-Men, we're talking 170. Before I get into everything, I want to thank everybody hanging out tonight. We'll say a quick hello to the chat. See 10 people hanging out with us. Starting off, of course, our good friend Ryan Magic Lasso. Good to see you, my friend. He says, question, how do the Morlocks protect their tunnels with storm doors? Nicely done, Ryan. Nicely done.
Clever, Ryan.
We have John Big Daddy Ross in the house. What is going on, sir? Hello. We also have our good friend Candace hanging out with us. Good to see you, Candace. Thanks for swinging by. We got Jackson Roy Kirk in the house as well. Hello to you. We got JP calling us out. See, he did throw John right in there.
Actually, he blamed you. It looks like, yay, it's not me.
Oh, yeah, damn it. He did. JP. Good to see you, man. Let's see. I think we got J Hood, Jamie in the chat. What is up, my friend?
What are you drawing tonight, Jamie? Let us know, man.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Roy Kirk says no intro. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. JP, first X-Men story I remember, hence Storm, was amazing from beginning. There you go. Very nice. My man Brock Morgan in the house. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man. He's always killing it over on Instagram. Of course, we got Tony, Old Wolf 65, hanging out as well. Saw him in the chat over at Morbius's channel right before this one. Let's see, scrolling through. Black Crown Comics in the house. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Cheers to you. Let's see. I think I got everybody scrolling. People saying hi. Naman in the chat as well. Hello, Naman. Comic Book World.
Shop there.
Oh, I missed Shop. What is up, Shop for Comics? Also hanging out with us. Appreciate you. And here come a few other. Albert in the house as well, doing some amazing work over on Instagram. That Magneto cover, man. I love what he's making. It makes me cringe though to see a beautiful cover being kind of cut up like that, but it's for a cool reason. So I'll let it pass. All right. I think we got everybody tonight. So yeah, appreciate everybody. Make sure you stick around after. We do have our questions that we're going to be doing as usual to get into our raffle that we'll be having. So shout out to Tim Stacey, our featured artist. We're in talks with him on what we're getting done here soon for the end of when we get to June when we do our giveaways. So stick around. We'll be asking questions about last week's episode here in just a bit. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to John because we'll be over on his channel next week. So be ready for that. Other than that, John, you want to get into some questions before we
Absolutely.
dive into...
But we got Chet. I got to say hi to Chet first.
Oh, I missed it. Oh man,
what's
everybody's
up,
coming
Chet
in.
Scotland jumping
There
in.
He is.
Good to see you, sir.
Chet I Knight, my man.
So yeah, Gore, I know you are a history fan, so I'm gonna go into your history of X-Men here. What is the first issues of X-Men that you recall reading?
So it would have been the early 80s, and it would have been scattered issues of the Byrne issue and the Byrne Claremont run, but it wasn't consistent.
I mean, most of us were unable to keep consistent as kids, right?
Well, the thing is, what happened in 82 and 83, when I got into mainstream comics, because originally my family's from Mexico, but I'm an American. I was born here. And so my earliest comics were from Mexico, and my first language was Spanish, and I just learned English on my own. And so comics initially attracted me. You know, you would go to the convenience stores, and I lived in a small town in Texas. If you've ever seen the film Lone Star, it's very similar to Lone Star, and that film is extremely accurate. Leave it to a New Yorker of Jewish descent. Right. And I met John Sayles once, and I told him that, and he liked that because then the event. I was reading the Warren magazines. I was reading Epic magazine. I was reading whenever heavy metal would end up on the racks. It was usually in the Playboy section and the Hustler section behind the counter. But every once in a while, I would end up there. So I was reading those. So I was reading Legion, Titans, Daredevil. So for me, the medium was quite open. And then I got a catalog, and I don't know how I convinced my mother. It's been 83. I ordered American Flag. I ordered very adult-oriented comics.
Yeah.
I ordered the earliest Judge Dredd comics that were being
Wow.
published by Eagle Comics by Brian Boland. Not knowing exactly what they were, but I had seen some of the artwork on some magazines, and so I got them all in. And it wasn't until really that it centered was Paul Smith. When he arrived on X-Men, I had picked up the issue you guys reviewed last week, which would have been this one here, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly, even though I had some knowledge of Phoenix and some knowledge of that and such, and I knew how popular that book was, the opening scenes to this were so arresting, and the writing by Claremont is so crisp, where Sunder tells her, "I'm here to hurt you," tells Candy this. Now, an exclamation mark is not being used. It's a period, which makes the scene even more powerful. And then you see her thrown through the window. And the way Paul drew her, you just center on her. And then you see Kurt jumping in to save her. And the whole issue took such a personal way of telling the story that, frankly, you could know absolutely nothing about the X-Men. Not a damn thing. But you see the human connection in those pages. You see how these mutants, these people care for each other. And everything changed. At that point, what have I been missing here? And that's what did it. It was these issues by Paul, and then I got the other ones the ones right before this. And we'll get into more of his artwork as we discuss this issue.
That's great. I mean, what a great early exposure.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's what did it, really. That's what made me an X-Men. An admirer of the series.
Awesome.
What's up, brother John?
John in the house.
Did you have a question, Justin? Or
I wanted to ask you. I mean, pretty straightforward, but I don't know this information, so I wanted to ask: who's your like number one favorite mutant if you had to choose one?
You know, I hate to be just what is it? Everyone says Wolverine, right? And for me, it was Wolverine. But it goes back to these issues, and Miller's and Claremont's miniseries, which coincided with this.
Yeah.
Basically, if you read this, you have to read that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember ordering those from that same catalog that I ordered those comics, right? And because I had missed it, and again, we didn't have a shop where I lived. I had to depend entirely on the racks. And so when I got those, and now my reading was still not very good, right? But the relationship of Logan and Mariko, again, you don't have to know anything about Logan. You don't have to know anything about Imperial Japan.
Right.
Nothing at all.
That was the beauty of those Marvel miniseries at the time. I think a lot of those really didn't rely on any prior knowledge, and you could really just get into a saga or a storyline.
Absolutely. And how I began going back to how Byrne and some of the Cochrane issues I had and the way Logan was drawn. And there was a stoicism to the way Paul Smith drew him and also the way Miller drew him. And he wasn't some bulky berserker guy who had this smirk on his face. Not at all.
He was more like a cowboy, like an old Western John Wayne.
And so there was something for me new with that, and it had to do with that miniseries. And so it basically, and then when later on, when this one came out, right? So, and this is a brilliant issue. I look forward to you guys covering this issue when you get there.
Yeah.
So basically it was Wolverine. But it wasn't for his berserker reasons, not at all.
Right.
It was how he's able to deal with his primal urges and how he wants Mariko to maybe civilize him in some way.
Right.
And it's just absolutely so well done. So it would be Wolverine, but for that reason.
Cool.
Jay Hood, we're doing the miniseries next. So we're moving it up one issue in our and we're doing it one issue out of order in the omnibus. Just because we had a schedule snafu with one of our guests, and we just moved his one issue a little later and moved the miniseries up. So we'll do the first two Wolverine issues next week on my channel, and then the following week we'll do the other two. So we'll split up the miniseries into two parts.
I think that's a good idea. I do, because if you did not read that miniseries and you just read this, you would not get the full scope of what happens in the X-Men between Mariko and Logan later on.
So that kind of works out even more.
Absolutely. No, it's a good idea. Yes.
Yeah. And so, John, just to clarify, that is so next week, right? Is what we're doing for.
Correct. I would have next week issues 1 and 2 of the Wolverine miniseries, and our guest will be Jimmy the Geek Aficionado, and then we'll be back on Justin's channel the week after for issues 3 and 4 with Morbius.
Perfect. I made a note there of that.
Be good.
Perfect. Very cool, John. Anything else you want to jump into? I have to share my screen. I forgot to share.
Yeah, let's Swaggle House is in the chat. What's going on, Swag?
Oh, we got Mickey in the chat. What's going on, brother? Finally caught alive, man. Appreciate you, man. Good to see you. All right, yeah. So let me set up. Let me share my screen real quick. Apologize, meant to do that earlier. And then we'll jump into this issue here. I'm very curious to hear your guys' thoughts.
Chat, I'm going to say that's the first time anybody's ever said that I look good in 4K. I'm here for it.
He said we're on the big screen, by the way. That was his,
I don't know that might be the first and only time. My wife's never even said that.
Let's see. Where's my...
What's up, Bobby De La Ghetto in the chat? Good to see you, Bobby.
Gotta switch that off. Okay. All right, I think I'm good. All right, Bobby, good to see you, my friend. All right, so let's talk about the cover first. So we're talking about 170. You got Storm, you got Callisto front cover. John, what are your initial thoughts on the artwork here?
I freaking love this cover. I mean, you get firstly the blood red background, right? It almost screams out at you. And then the intensity, the close up, I think the faces are solid, and then the knives, right? It's like I don't know. It feels like a pulp movie kind of image for me. And I just love the aggression of it. No superpowers being involved in any way. It's just a straight up street fight. We know what we know about Storm and what we've gathered from Callisto, and it just kind of works for the two of them. And those that have read stuff with those characters later on know this is an ongoing kind of thing with these two. But yeah, no, I'm definitely digging this cover. I would absolutely have picked this up off the rack. Nice.
Gore, what about you? What were your initial thoughts of this cover?
No, I second John, and also it's a new era for the X-Men. I mean, this cover here is different than the others, and you see these close-up of these two characters. You see this deep emotion in these two characters. You see this rage and Ororo. All of us, because we know her humanity is so deep.
Mm.
And we already know what Callisto and the Morlocks are capable of.
Mm.
And when you see this issue, you're thinking, what has happened to make Ororo, in a way, turn away from her serenity and bring out the tempest inside her?
Right.
And so, yes, it's a very arresting cover. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, Candace, that is definitely her shoulder. That is not side boob. That's shoulder.
I didn't even see that as a breast.
That's shoulder
I
and
think
back,
that's
and a
definitely
little
shoulder.
arm. I guess it's a little armpit thrown in there.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing too, this does kind of remind me of the recent king size issue that we had talked about with the vampire cover, the red, kind of background that they had, solid, and Storms on that featured main feature on that. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Definitely love this cover. The copy I have is pretty nice actually. So
well, and I think to Gore's point, like the X-Men covers that we've had pretty much all the way through to now in the omnibuses that we've been looking at, not a lot of close-ups, not a lot. This is easily the most we've been. We had a Kitty Pryde one a couple issues back where she's up against a wall looking all scared, but even that is like waist up. Like this is much closer, and I think it is very different than what we've gotten up to this point.
Chet thinks it's lazy. He's calling it lazy. He has used that term.
You're lazy.
Good one, John. Tell him.
But Chet's a Byrne fan. I mean, I think that's been established.
He's first
Sure.
and foremost.
He's a strong Byrne fan, and well, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Storm is that way. You just never know. It could be nudity. You got to be ready.
All right, so let's jump into the first. Not really a splash page per se,
when
but
that song came out, that's right.
something.
Dancing in the Dark came out in '83.
Wait, was it? Was it that same time?
Yeah, I think in '83 when that album came out, it was huge.
Yep.
Bruce Springsteen.
Oh yeah,
There you go.
Bruce was everywhere.
Yes,
Wow.
it was.
Well, we pick up where we left off from 168. Technically, that was the last time that we saw Cyclops as he was visiting his grandparents, and we kind of just got left with that one page at the end, meeting Madeline Pryor for the first time, and that was it. So this is where we're starting to pick that story up again. We're in Alaska now, and it seems a couple of weeks have gone by. There's been a lot of like traveling and stuff that they've done throughout this time, but we get Madeline Pryor in this beautiful yellow dress. Cyclops looking like Cyclops, and and they're dancing. They're dancing in the dark all the way till the music stops, and they continue to dance. Before I get into the rest of this scene, though, any thoughts here to add to just this opening? It's not your typical splash page that we have been getting, but we do get a little more than half size in terms of the artwork, and overall, obviously, still just tells the general story of where they're at to begin with. John, I'll pass it to you first.
I've always liked the character of Madeline Pryor. I don't necessarily love the early appearances of her. I think she's a more interesting character, like late when you get into like some of the X Factor stuff, and later on, for me, like it just feels like Cyclops' story is getting tacked on, and for me, that's part of the irksome elements of the previous issue and this one. It works better in this issue than the last one, because the last one was like, he's got this girlfriend, no, he's got that girlfriend, no, he's got this girlfriend. Like it was a little bit much. There he is. I like the setup. I do like the audience is left with the same questions that Scott's left with, which is like, why does she look so much like Jean? Well, do I really just have a type? Is that what it is? Like I just have this one type, and right. I just find these ladies. But there's a bunch of intrigue happening here, and that's what this really offers. I just don't. It just feels it doesn't meld well with the Morlock stuff for me. That's the only drawback. For me, I'm always like, get to the Morlock stuff. Get to the Morlock stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. Two things. One, I want to say a quick hello to Adam. Make stuff up. Good to see you, Adam.
And Adam, I'm going to drop the link to 169. You can catch it on the replay when we're done here. Stick around for this.
There you go.
So I'll drop the link for you, buddy.
And I'm going to jump into this next batch because it does go kind of hand in hand with the scene. Then Gore, I'll pass it to you. So yeah, we essentially get this flirtiness. They've clearly connected over these past couple weeks, and now they're on their first kind of date that they've had going on. And halfway through, like, things are going really well. And then halfway through, he starts to just remember Jean Grey and his feelings for her. And he's got kind of mixed feelings, and ends up revealing to Madeline that he feels a lot of who she is, or maybe what she looks like, reminds him of his love for Jean Grey. Even shows a picture. Kind of a stab, I think, to Madeline. I don't know. I would be pretty upset if I was Madeline with how this discussion went down. And then he kind of like goes back and he realizes, he's like, am I making a mistake? Should I try to fix it? And he kind of tries to smooth things over. I don't know. There was kind of a lot within this little discussion of Scott going back and forth within his own mind, even moments where he's not even talking to her and just giving silence while she's like, are you okay? Hello. So Gore, I'm going to pass it to you. What are your thoughts on this opening set of scenes, these first few pages, as we see Scott and Madeline Pryor?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I really did. And because what's happening here, like I said, is a new beginning with the X-Men. And now we're getting deep into the relationships, right? Now, this works in two levels, in my opinion. You can come in and read this without knowing anything about the X-Men. But all of us, even when you were a child, when I read these, I understood. You like somebody, but you like them because they remind you of somebody else. Now, over the decades, I've gotten older. That's become something very realistic. And that's explored here. Now, for those who know the Phoenix saga, her appearance is now throwing everyone through a loop. What is Claremont doing here?
Right.
What is he doing here? And as the series goes in and on, you start seeing images of Jean. Is this Jean? So that's why this is a brilliant how it's well done. Yeah. And also, I think that we'll throw with the Morlocks, because what's happening here is you have this courtship, and I like how Madeline is very forward. She's very forward with Scott.
Yeah,
it's very unusual for a mainstream comic at the time to do this. For a woman to take, basically, she wants to initiate romance with him.
Right.
And so that, again, so this is something new, at least the way I remember it at the time. Sure. And then you have the Morlock situation where Callisto wants to have, it's like a reverse Beauty and the Beast with Callisto and Angel, right? And she wants to have a marriage there where there's no consent of any kind. And she wants to force, basically, to have a marriage with him. So these two stories, in my opinion, work quite well. Yeah. But now we're into this territory where you're going to develop these characters. Because that's the way I see this. Something's changed, in my opinion, with Claremont at this point. I don't know how much Paul had to do with this. Because now the stories are very character-driven. And so I like how Scott was torn by this, but he has to let her know the truth.
Right.
And I think, I'm for one that I always like Cyclops, and this is part of the reason I like Scott, because of what happened here, the way Paul and Chris handled him in this run. So yes, all this I like very much, and including what she's standing by the fire there, and I mean it's supposed to suggest already strong desire. Yeah. But the thing is, he's torn. Am I attracted to this woman because of somebody else? That's not fair to her. But I can't control it. And then how does she react when she tells you this, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that she was still open to giving it a shot.
Because of that, yeah.
Yeah. JP says, hey, I like you because you look like my dad. Not because of you. John, anything to add there to these?
No, I definitely that obviously that flame image there, that one panel is clearly alluding to the Phoenix in a lot of ways too, and I think you can see Scott's reaction to seeing her with the firelight behind her, or being able to look through her dress. I mean, either way, there's a lot of symbolism there.
Well, let's move on. We got up next a couple things going on here. So, as Gore mentioned, yes, a wedding is going on essentially, and for those who are catching up, Morlocks were living down under this tunnel deep under New York City, and they had captured Angel, and that's where the X-Men had kind of tried to come save him, but then they got tied down, as you could see, somewhat tied down, and Callisto kind of running the show as she's about to marry Angel, who she thinks is the most beautiful man in the world. And from here we immediately get the team making a move. They break out of their restraints, and Nightcrawler goes and bamps his way over to Callisto. And enough times he bamps to where it exhausts her. And, he expresses that. We've learned that in the past that, over time, bamfing, especially with another person, they both get tired. It seems that Nightcrawler has now been, grown into taking that extra effort that it usually takes now, so he doesn't get as knocked out. But Callisto definitely not in good shape after this. Meanwhile, Sunder gets cracked in the face by Colossus. So I know Colossus was waiting to do that. And then they basically want to make a deal. Storm's trying to make, she says, here are the terms. You let all of us go free. And we won't take out your leader, Callisto, which, Sunder was concerned. Everybody else was concerned. So, and then right, of course, before they do that, we get this older woman that comes by, as you can see her hand reaching at the bottom right, but we won't get into that quite yet. But Gore, what did you think of some of these action scenes, the wedding that was disrupted now, and Nightcrawler using his Bamf ability to wear out?
This stuff is great. I mean, the panel you have there is, Paul is just so good regarding handling the vertical and horizontal panels. They're not cluttered like cockroaches, for one. And that scene with what he's doing to Callisto, exhausting her by just teleporting constantly, right?
Yep.
And I liked Angel this way because when I read the previous issue, it was like a Christian image. Because if you see old paintings of Christ, I mean, that's when I saw that. I saw that as symbolism of Christ,
right?
And or an angel, really, and literally an angel from heaven. Some sort. But yes, all these here, and Paul's just the thing is, if you notice the backgrounds, Cochran would have added a lot of detail to it,
right?
And it works well with Cochran. I mean, Cochran's background, science fiction and the independent stuff, and that's one of his strengths. And if Byrne had done this, I think Byrne, when I think of John Byrne, I think of the great silent filmmakers where you have to really express yourself in a way, the big eyes, the big smiles. And he does that a lot. And he's really good at it. But sometimes it detracts from the drama. And so what I like about Paul, he's more like it's a very cleaner style. And it just worked for me much better. And so these scenes, the drama is there. And the close-ups and the panels. And again, if you notice, Chris's writing is either he forced himself to edit, he's not verbose in these issues.
Yeah.
It's something very unusual, I said. So it's very accessible. You don't have to know anything about the X-Men, but you understand the human drama.
It's true. Very true. John, anything to add there with what's going on here? Were you disappointed that there was no wedding?
I mean, we still got time. There's still time. There's a lot left in this issue. No, but I'm glad Gore pointed out how many panels just have a solid color for a background. So you look at the middle one when Storm's getting her hair pulled, it's just a purple background. Or when she's kneeling, just that blue background. The far one has that yellow. It's just one solid color. Nothing. Just bam. One simple, just like the cover, right? Just like the cover had that swath of red. Same thing. But then also when we get the tunnel in that Nightcrawler sequence, it's very subdued. You get the texture of the ceiling and the shape of the round ceiling, but none of the intense detail that a Byrne or a Cochran might have given us. So that is very different in this era completely.
Yeah.
Story wise, I'm very curious, Gore. Callisto gives me major Joan Jett vibes. Like, I don't know. I know that this was early in the Joan Jett era, like the Runaways and that kind of stuff, because she was, she had music coming out in the early 80s, but she gives me total punk Joan Jett vibes. I don't know about you.
True. No, because Joan Jett, I remember it was 1980, 81. I remember the difference because I remember I was like, I don't know, I was really little, but I had a crush on this high school girl.
Oh my gosh, Joan Jett
is
stunning. Yeah.
Even though, when I was like 4th, 5th grade, I liked older girls. And she was a friend of our neighbors. She was this beautiful girl. I mean, if you could think of the quintessential 70s girl, I mean, sexy at 17, right? And she loved Joan Jett because sometimes she would babysit me, and she would play Joan Jett all the time. And so, but also it was Joan Jett, and then a little bit of Chrissy Hine from the Pretenders.
Oh, I can see that for sure.
They both emerged around that time. Yes, because the Runaways ended in 79, 80. Then she did her solo albums.
Yeah.
And then the Pretenders emerged around the same time, 1980, 81.
Good call.
So yes, absolutely. I thought the same thing. Yeah.
There's
It's
that punk.
definitely-
She's got that punk renegade rebel aesthetic. You know,
was
obviously
the era.
living
Yeah, it was
underground
the
with the rejects of the society plays into that as well.
Oh, that's
Kenneth
true.
Bird.
No, that's true. Exactly. Because, they are the Morlocks from the H.G. Wells, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're not evil. But you unlike the Morlocks in the H.G. Wells one, here you actually feel sympathy for them.
Right.
They feel utterly rejected. Because even though the X-Men are mutants, they see them, you're too pretty, you're too attractive. And they live in this Cold War bunker, underground Cold War bunker. There's also a Cold War story, right? As many of these comics are from the 80s.
Yep.
The Cold War is always in the background. And so, yes, it's very punk rock. And as you know, she's not the only one who's going to be influenced by this, as we're about to see.
No, I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Before I go further, I want to say a quick hello to Kenneth Bird in the chat. Hello to you, sir. We also have Signature King hanging out in the chat as well. What is up, nerds? He says. Good to see you. All right, Leah, let's keep this going. So as we said, Storm gets interrupted and we re-meet Plague. We got to kind of briefly meet Plague earlier in the first the issue prior to this. But yeah, this one really interesting ability, essentially. Like, I'm curious how far her ability can go, and maybe you guys can talk more to that, as I'm very new to the character. But just like the inconvenience of like giving her a stomach ache or something real quick, or like just something like real little, or just
Gave her indigestion.
Yeah. She's like
acid. I gave her acid reflux.
Storm's trying to give a speech and then she has hiccups, like she's like can't get it all out.
Right.
Like that's
like
just like
Saga.
Yeah. There it is. So we get Plague throwing Storm off by giving her a plague. She essentially has a fever and is knocked out. And the fight is kind of broken up to the point where they're now offering to make a trade, or not make a trade, but you stop what you're doing, let Callisto go. The Morlocks are saying, otherwise Storm dies. As Plague, I can just make her die here. So I thought that was pretty. I mean, you even got Colossus saying, "I yield," as he's got, a fistful of Sunder's shirt there as they continue to kind of pound each other. So between that happening, they tie them back up in this rope that one of them pulls out, or whatever material that is. Callisto expresses, "Hey, you should have killed me when you had the shot, because that's what I would have done." Just kind of shows more as to how serious they are when it comes to like what they stand by. And we do get a little bit more of a glimpse as to who they are. Gore, you touched on it a little bit. She talks about how they are runaways, outcasts. She says, people with no homes, no one to care for them, hated and hunted because of their powers we didn't want or understand, deformed, despised, and deserted. She explains the alley that they're in now and how it used to be for a bomb shelter. They took it over later on, basically been living down there ever since. And they have another mutant friend of theirs that helps them find or discover other mutants, or other ones that are nearby, which they reference Caliban here, which we've met, a few issues back, and then also in the recent one that we read. So we get a little flashback to Caliban. He's still taking care of Kitty, who was also touched by plague last issue, and he's trying to take care of her. He basically wants to have his cake and eat it too. Essentially, he wants to keep Kitty in his life, but he knows that he has to listen to Callisto and the Morlocks and be part of that as well at the same time. So he's very torn with what he wants to do, and Kitty is like begging him to please let her go, or to let her be with her team again. So kind of some mixed feelings going on between these characters, and again, I like that we get a little bit of an origin story, or not origin story, but a little bit of understanding of who they are ultimately. John, I'll pass it to you first. What are your thoughts on some of these kind of the trick play that Plague pulls, and then how things kind of quickly turn around?
My favorite stuff about the Morlocks, and maybe it's just because when I started reading X-Men issue to issue, it was in the midst of the Marauders Massacre, which is a huge part of this whole mutant story here. I just really appreciate the fact that they were able to take the mutants and create a hierarchy, almost like a caste system within mutants, right? This concept that you would have the mutants that for so long we viewed as like the characters that we know, oh, they're so ostracized, they're so mistreated, there's so much prejudice and issues that they're dealing with. But then we realize, no, they're the tip of the spear. There's this whole other layer deep, right? That even within mutants, there's a caste system, and there's people that are in some ways or other beneath them. Literally and figuratively here with beneath the city, but also like struggling to survive because their mutation isn't cool, isn't powerful, isn't extremely useful, or is grotesque in some manner, and would therefore society might dismiss them on a whole other level. And it might even explain better in some ways the prejudice our characters are facing if there's this whole other like street level mutant society, right? That people are running into out in the world, that they would come across these Morlocks and they would then become what a society might judge mutants based upon, right?
Yeah.
So I love that whole concept that's being introduced here of like layers of mutants and like outcast society. Yeah, Caliban's cool. I like that he cares about Kitty so much, but for me, I'm all about the Morlocks here.
Yeah. Bobby says, you think you guys are the outcasts. Where are the real outcasts? Gore, what anything to add here on some of these panels that were?
No, I like John's point, and I guess in some caste systems you have the undesirables, right? And which is at the bottom, right? And that's
always
this is where they are.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, you have to admire them in a way, because I think around this time, about a year or two before this, the film The Warriors came out.
Which is clearly, there's clearly some of that DNA here, right?
Yeah, you see, a Swan and his group of the Warriors are trying to get back home, and they're definitely at the bottom because everyone's after them for something they didn't do. But they're very proud, though. There's a wonderful scene in that film, The Warriors, when Swan. Have you seen the film where Swan is with the girl on the subway, and then you get some upper class people get into the subway, and they're nicely dressed in tuxedos. If things had been different and roles were reversed, right, by the luck of the cards, if they had been born differently, it would be reversed. But at one point, the girl that Swan is with, she feels really intimidated by these girls who look really beautiful and nicely made up. And she tries to fix her hair. And then Swan stops her in a way saying, you don't have to do anything. We're better, they're not better than us.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the girls drops a corsage without, to her, then Swan picks it up and gives it to her, right? And so I'd seen The Warriors at the time, because I saw many inappropriate films when I was a kid. We had a family they were neighbors of ours, and they would go to the drive-thru. They would take us to go see rated R films all the time. And which made confessions interesting because I was going to Catholic school. And that's why I saw The Warriors. And so when I got to this comic, I thought about that. And John hit it on the nail. He even mentions Runaways. He even mentioned Runaways. So Chris knows what he's doing here. And then briefly on Caliban and Katya. I had not read Shakespeare's The Tempest at the time, right? That's why this comic is layered over time as you get older, and you know who Caliban is in The Tempest, right? But here Caliban's a bit more sympathetic. Now, I had seen Phantom of the Opera, the silent film, because it would air on television on weekends, and so I knew the film. And so he's obviously, not obviously, but the Phantom of the Opera is an influence. This is a few years before the Crawford and Brightman opera. But I like how Kitty, in a way, is willing. This is again typical of the X-Men: is fine, I'll be with you, but you must help me save the X-Men. And you see this, and we're going to see this throughout them willing to give up something for them about themselves, risking their lives for somebody else. And Kitty means it when she said, "I will stay with you." He doesn't believe her, but she means it. Again, you don't have to know anything about the X-Men, but you read this at a human level, human emotion, you are there, and anyway, that's my thought. Yeah.
Well said. Both of you guys, I think, on point. I wanted to highlight a couple things in the chat here. Brock saying an amazing analogy of the Morlocks, literally and figuratively living underground. Bobby agrees with you, Gore, on your analogy. Daryl in the chat, read your comments. Good to see you, Daryl. He says Ed Pisker said Claremont told him Paul Smith drew too many Morlocks. They had to be dealt with,
which is the massacre storyline where definitely we're going to see not all of them make it back out again.
Spoilers. Very cool. Let's keep this going here. So Next up, we get a little bit of a hard left here with where we go next. And I was not expecting this at all. Not familiar with familiar with, the characters and what ends up happening here. But I'll get into it. Essentially, it says elsewhere, we get Mystique, who is 19... What was the year? Or 1780 something? I think they gave the year.
1780, I believe.
Yeah,
1780 or 83.
83.
Okay, yeah.
So that's when the peace agreement was signed between the U.S. and between the colonies and the British Empire, ending the war.
Ah, there you go.
That's how I remember 1783, where Ben Franklin and Adams signed the treaty.
Yep, and this is taking place in England. We get Mystique, who looks like she's running for her life. She's all cut up and bruised, and she ends up falling into this river. These vicious wolves are chasing after her, and then we get a very familiar face that kind of saves the day. Jason Wingard, who we haven't seen since the Dark Phoenix saga, looking exactly the same as we last left him. And then, of course, as she looks up, we see Jean. So that's a bit of a hint that we must be in some sort of dream. But Jean taking a blade, slashing her throat, essentially, is what we get at those last few panels. Right. Yeah, right before we have her, waking up, jarring. I was not expecting, some of that to happen right off the bat. Of course, yes, Mystique, it is her now waking up. She kind of recalls things that we just talked about, Jason Wingard, Jean Grey, Phoenix, but she knows that one is dead, the other is in a mental institute, and then she goes downstairs and she sees Irene, who is has coffee ready for her, as she can predict already. They kind of talk a little bit about this, Mystique trying to figure out who has the power to give her this type of dream, because it felt so real. Her ankle, she was explaining, was even in pain, and she broke it in the dream. So she's trying to figure all that out at the same time. I know they then freak out because Irene, I keep blanking on Irene. Destiny. Destiny's ability, she picks up that something's going on with Rogue. She references Rogue, who is upstairs. Again, from where we've left off, John, I don't remember if we were supposed to know any of this. I do know that they reference Dazzler.
Dazzler.
Right. Yeah. So I see that there's the reference to Dazzler. I was trying to think if there was any hint prior to that in just the main X-Men stuff, but
I don't think so.
Okay, so this is definitely, clearly a way where they're trying to get you to, dive into books that maybe you haven't read in the past, which I always appreciate. And I am curious about those Dazzler issues. Perhaps one day I'll check those out. But yeah, we find out that essentially Rogue is on she left whoever they are and is now on a bus departing Washington. And we don't know what her mission is or why she left or anything really. So we're just left with a bunch of questions as to why we got these scenes before we flash back to the Morlocks and everything else. But curious, Gore, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this, as I called it, a hard left turn going into this dream sequence with Mystique?
Oh, I like these hard left turns.
Yeah.
Because he's laying a layer of something he's going to continue to come back to down the road.
Yeah.
We already seen this with what Claremont is doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this plays on two levels. You know nothing about the Phoenix saga, but you look at this woman. That looks just like Madeline Pryor. What did Scott say? You remind me of someone I once knew.
Right.
And if you're an X-Men person who's read you knew this and you see this and Mastermind, what he's capable of, you're thinking, what the hell? What is happening here? And then Rogue. And then you see Rogue drawn in a way, because in the Dazzler comics, if Magic Lasso is here, he's better versed than I am on Dazzler. But the way Dazzler was drawn, the way Rogue was drawn in Dazzler comics, she looks older. She's angry. She's bitter. She can't stand that Dazzler beats her at every fight, right?
Right.
But now you see her sitting here in a way that you don't see her drawn. And you see her very subdued.
Yeah.
And so you have all these questions left on this point. And one thing that's going to happen in this run is the way I look at it down the road is the rehabilitation of Rogue. Which is something that would ever happen, that way it's worked out. And if you read the letters pages to this comic, people were angry when she showed up down the road because they know what she had done in Carol Danvers. They knew how she was in Dazzler. And Chris is making her sympathetic. This was something very, very new. But basically, back to Mystique, back to Destiny, back to Wingard, and back to Jean Grey. Something sinister is going on here. And before you can hope anything more, we go back to the Morlocks.
Yep.
I like that very much. I like the left turn.
Love it. Love it. Love it. John, what are your thoughts here with what Gore had said?
I like this one a lot more than the Cyclops one. And it does connect nicely to the previous issue where we got Wingard dealing with Emma Frost, seemingly catatonic down inside of the Hellfire Club.
Oh,
right?
Shaw. Yeah.
Sorry, Shaw. Down in the Hellfire Club dealing with Emma. And clearly now we've got other elements from the Hellfire Club invading the mind of Mystique and the life of Destiny. I think there's definitely some setup happening here. And I think it's great because for the audience, we're reading this going like, why does the new girlfriend for Cyclops look like Jean? Is it just coincidence? Right. But then you have this moment, which is Claremont saying, no, this all adds up. Like, don't worry. Like, this is clearly a bigger picture. I don't want you to forget about Jean and the Dark Phoenix and the Hellfire Club and Wingard and all this. This is all connected. It's not just happenstance that she looks like Jean, right?
Right.
And I think that's what's cool about it is he doesn't need to spell it out. He can just drop these couple of breadcrumbs and let us connect it. For me, yeah, I ship Mystique and Destiny in a big way. So I love seeing them together. Their dynamic is always very exciting. The last time we saw them was issue 158. If I'm not mistaken, somewhere there at the beginning of this omnibus, we had Rogue coming and battling the X-Men. And then since then, in this run, we have not seen her. I have not read those Dazzler issues. So yeah, I'm not certain how those connect in and would probably need to check.
Yeah, you don't have to, because what's going to happen if you already read, I think John, or have both of you read ahead into what happens with Rogue down the road?
I've read all. Yeah, I mean, I've read this run for sure.
That's basically all you need to know because you have the Rogue monologues going into it. You really that explains it quite well. Okay. I mean, and so you don't really have to read those Dazzler issues now.
Did you read the Dazzlers, Gore?
I have them somewhere around here.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I like Dazzler because the early '80s, when Flashdance was coming out, again, another film which I wasn't supposed to see, but I saw. And I just love that. I just like that film a lot. It's a sexy film, even before I knew what sexy was. And so Dazzler is it's a good comic because of the 80s, of that era. It captures it very, very well. So yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
There it is. Ryan says, read all the Dazzlers.
There you go.
I've read all of them. I have not.
It's great. It's great.
But I have read.
Very cool. All right. So yeah, we'll keep this going. We get back to the Morlocks here. Just a quick. That scene totally reminded me of the Mask scene.
Yeah,
I just had to.
I mean, it is his name is Mask, right?
Yes.
This guy's name is Mask.
Cameron Diaz. So I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Missed opportunity there. Good call.
A quick second. Of
he is a missed opportunity. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get Mask, who again I didn't really know I don't think any of us knew the powers at this time until we got to see.
This is the first time we've seen him use his powers,
right? And really reveal his face, right? I mean, as he explains kind of his scenario or his situation that he has of being able to alter the look of anybody except himself, and that's why and JR touched on this last episode a bit on hinting towards. What we learn here, basically that, how they feel about, or at least how Mask feels about those who are prettier than him.
Very resentful. They're very resentful.
Big time. Yeah. So, he's ready to do some damage. However, before he gets to do anything, Callisto says, hold on, let's, they call it off. And then top of that, she asks if Nightcrawler would join them. She thinks
I love that
Nightcrawler could be of use to the team there, which I mean, it makes sense. Nightcrawler showed what he could do. But
hasn't he also faced persecution for his appearance routinely in these whatever 70 issues or what have you that we've read here?
Yep. And that's what he says here in these panels. He says, I've been fighting to be accepted as I am, to be judged by my deeds instead of my looks. He says, I won't leave that battle before it's done. And that's when he's tied up.
But note about this, if I may, is that throughout this, whenever the X-Men talk, they say we're human beings.
I did notice that.
Yeah. And it's about the humanity, right?
Yeah.
And for other reasons, I've been thinking a lot about Robert Oppenheimer. right? And the dropping of the atomic bomb, what led to that. And so maybe go back to Einstein. As you guys probably know, when Einstein came here, he was German, Jewish, right? But he was one of the early founding members of the NAACP.
I did not know that.
And
I didn't
so
know that either.
basically for him, a German, a Jew, but he understood the plight of African Americans in this country. And the thing about the X-Men is their humanity is always at its foundation. And even Magneto eventually comes around, right? But he's angry. And if anybody has any reason to be pissed off at everyone, it should be Nightcrawler. And resentful. And yet he's not.
Yeah.
And so the Morlocks, they're both very human, right? They both react very human. Nightcrawler's reaction, like Einstein's, or like the Morlocks, the way they react, saying, we were treated like crap, so we have every reason to treat the rest of you even worse, right? And I think Claremont understood this quite well, and certainly you see that in the X-Men.
Well, I think, and also Nightcrawler is the only one with a really, truly loyal, supportive girlfriend, and so I think he's clearly he's able to like find his identity outside of his appearance because he has the love of a good woman.
I like that. Yeah, that's right. That's good.
Stuck by him through some really awful dates.
Bobby says, "Don't be pulling on Storm's skin like that." I agree. It's not cool. Not cool. All right. So yeah, with this or following this, just to get into the other section of the scene here. So Callisto shows up. I'm sorry, Caliban shows up, saying Callisto. He brings Kitty, also being called Sprite at that time.
I call her Katya all the time. Katya.
I like Katya. I do like Katya too, and to see Colossus, breaking out again. By the way, this is like his third time, I think. Second or third, right? That he breaks out. Like,
I'm so glad you mentioned it because it's like Morlocks really need to put some work. I even love the bit in between when the one guy's like, "I have this really great chain.
Yeah,
we have this great chain. We can lock him up with these." And then it's like he just needs one flex, and he's
this
like,
whole
boom.
time he was able to he was able to get out.
So good.
So he breaks out of that. They both go running to care for her. Caliban explains how she was touched by plague. She's ill. Nightcrawler wants to get her to a hospital as soon as possible. But of course, Callisto's not having that and explains, she can die for all I care. If she dies, she dies. And so be it. So of course, that's where Caliban explains, well, hey, there's one way around this. If you want to get out of here, is if Callisto is no longer our leader. And how do you do that? You challenge her to a fight. And so Nightcrawler, Kurt, he stands up, says, I challenge you. But then we get Storm and this gorgeous bright orange and yellow panel here of her face there as she lights up and says, no, let me be the one to challenge. Let me be the one to fight and be part of this. Meanwhile, they didn't quite know the deal that this challenge, this fight was actually to the death, right? That's what they clarified, kind of in between. But Storm still stepped up. She wants to do this. And Callisto's like, all right, yeah, bring it. Like, you think I'm scared? Like, you got something coming. So we get all this. And then to say we jump into some of the action scenes, which have just been phenomenal. I love the fact that Callisto.
This is what I paid my, what is it? How much? 50 cents? $1.25.
I paid 60 cents. That's the cover price.
This is what I paid that 60 cents for. This sequence right here. It's like,
is it beautiful? Is it great?
I mean,
tell me what you think, John. I'll talk to you first.
So it reminds me of John Carpenter. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but like I feel like this is Snake Plissken fighting, in some arena versus some guy he's forced to fight. There's a wonderful like Escape from New York quality to this for me. Admittedly, the eye patch is on the villain and not the hero here, but we'll deal with that. I love all about it. The fact that she's like Michael Jordan in the finals, she's got a fever, but she's going to play. She's going to play anyways. And yes, I made an amazing, accurate sports analogy.
Oh my God. Let me check it and let me Google that. Make sure John's right here.
But then also that she like owns, I think this is the first time we see Storm owning her role as a leader.
Yeah.
She says, I lead the X-Men and my guy's not going to die for me. Mm-hmm. I'm going first. Yep. And it harkens back to her days in Africa as a street urchin and her street fighting and all the things that she learned as a kid. And she's like, this is a straight up street duel, and I can do this even in a fevered state. And then of course these two panels, they'll like flick the blade at her, and then the like amazing like 5 arms of Storm just going just snagging it right out of the air. All of it. And then of course that face of Callisto going, oh snap. Like I may have just totally made a bad call here. I love all of it. And yeah, Brock Morgan, look at me. I'm the captain now. I'm the captain.
I totally regret this now.
Yeah. So
Gore, what are your thoughts on this whole commotion here? The challenge that Nightcrawler tries to start, Storm stepping in, and then we're getting these gorgeous panels as well.
Well, yeah, you have the lead up, right? Caliban shows up with well, basically Katya is dying unless something is done.
Right.
And so Nightcrawler decides to step in, even though in his heart, he has no intention of killing Callisto.
Right.
And it's debatable. I don't think he even thinks if I can even beat her. But he takes on that challenge, right? And like you guys alluded to, Storm says, no, I'm the leader. It's my responsibility. But like John said, note that she's ill, first of all. Second, that environment that she's under the tunnel, I think in the previous issue, she's very uncomfortable being down there.
Yeah.
And it's not just that she was buried underground. She was buried with her mother, and she saw her mother die beside her underground.
Yeah.
And so all these things are there, right, for Ororo. And yet her and Kurt go outside themselves for somebody else at the risk of their own life. And now Aurora, we don't know this. And actually, it's quite surprising what she ends up doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to that scene where they step up to the plate, basically. Mm-hmm. And then, she throws the knife, and Aurora just does this thing, just catches it in this wonderful way. Mm-hmm. And it surprises Callisto. But then, as we learn in the fight scene, Callisto is superior when it comes to these fighting abilities. Mm-hmm. And then she starts to play with Aurora. That's dangerous, right? The overconfidence. And but yes, it's so well done here. And regarding finally Peter, though, when he sees Katya in peril, nothing's going to hold him back. Now, it's interesting. I know in the past there's been some discussion about the age differences between these two in a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. If you read the letters pages to the X-Men, there's very little objection as to their age differences and if they get in a relationship. Mm-hmm. There was one letter that I remember from a woman, and her main objection was that he wasn't intelligent enough. And because she's a genius and he's just a big guy, there's nothing much there. She was quite direct about it. And but also, to be fair, in the early 80s, like I mentioned, I mean, when I was in elementary school, the girls were dating middle school kids. The middle school girls were dating high schoolers. The high schoolers were dating men. This was the norm. Mm-hmm. Maybe in my part of Texas. Now, and there was never an objection that was creepy. The objection was everyone here owns guns. If they find out, you're going to get shot. That was the thing. So this relationship between these two was not a big deal for us. I mean, I didn't think of it at all. And also, and I was reading Teen Titans, Dick had a relationship with Starfire. There was one scene when they were in bed together. They're teenagers, right? Or supposed to be teenagers. So in any event, I wanted to mention that. But in any event, wonderful paneling here. And this fight scene is just
let's get to the fight and let's let Gore break that down. I want
to
because this absolutely
I agree.
Basically, it's a ballet dance of the deaf. Mm-hmm. And the way Paul just orchestrates this, you just focus on those two women on that panel. They're both strong women, black backgrounds or orange backgrounds. The swaying back and forth. Very, again, for a Claremont book, there's not much dialogue here.
Right. True.
I don't know if that's the first time we've seen this in a Claremont book.
Well, I mean, that second page, that middle page there is just completely without dialogue. It's
stunning. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And the composure.
Yes.
Callisto basically underestimated. He wants to play with Ororo. But Ororo basically means, I have to save Katya. It's not about me. Mm-hmm. It's not about me. Whatever anxiety I fear, whatever fears I have, whatever issues I have, I don't feel freaking well. I'm going to save that girl. And if it means killing this woman, going against everything I represent, either she dies or Katya dies. That's the way I saw it.
Yeah.
This woman will die.
Yep. Powerful. Powerful.
So well done. So well done.
I will say too, the middle panel or the middle page is, John, as you pointed out too, and Gore, as you mentioned, all the different solid color backgrounds, and not being so much copy or so much text, text word bubbles. I got some vibes of like Deadly Class in this little bit, especially with the oranges and things like that, but also just the style of showing this fight drawn out.
I'm looking at my comic.
Yeah, and it's like that kind of got a little bit of that vibe as well. And even looking at it now, even in the omnibus here,
I hadn't thought about it, but you're right.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really well done. John, anything to add for these fight scenes, these beautiful fight scenes?
I mean, I've mentioned the Pam Grier Aurora connection, but I'm getting Tina Turner vibes in this one. Look at that arm. Look at the back of her arm. Like she's just ripped. This is like
that's true, John. That's right. The Thunderdome film was
right.
That's right. Yeah.
You look at that middle panel where she stabs Callisto, and it's the flex on her arm, the musculature, very uncommon for female characters at that time. The flex of it all. I think they really, without like making her super masculine, they just simply implied her fitness and her aggression. It gave the stab an even more, like, a greater intensity. Seeing her muscle so tense, I love all of it. The whole sequence, like Gore's saying, that ballet sequence on the left side here. The back and forth, and Storm seemingly outclassed, right? Getting cut twice in a row, and you're like, okay, this is not going so well,
right?
But then you just see her using her outfit as like another weapon, and just basically removing her opponent's weapon in doing so that she can get the kill move. And then the casual way she seems to just walk away.
I was about to comment on that.
I think there's something about it that is, there's no regret on Storm's physique when she walks away from this moment.
How many times have we seen this in film? Usually there's an explosion in the background.
Yes, right. Especially this angle. Yes, especially this angle. Yeah.
And the hero she just walks away really casually as Armageddon is behind them, right?
Yeah.
Or they drop the mic if you're a comedian or something, right?
Sure.
And you just casually just walk away. I mean, this predates all that stuff.
Yeah. Right. No, it's a great point. And I will say, and this is something I saw Candace earlier talking about, she had read a lot of this digitally, seeing some of the face expressions, like things like that. When my first go through of this issue, I read digitally, as I normally do before I read it in the omnibus. These scenes were amazing to be able to flip through each one of these panel to panel feature, and to see this scene come to life a bit more in the cinematic kind of style or vibe, looked absolutely just stunning. It was really well done. So that to me was even just an extra bit on top of everything else, on top of the fact that it was just well done to begin with. So
because Lisa told me she's surprised. I mean, she's fighting, in her opinion, a weaker opponent.
Yeah,
she's playing with her.
Yeah,
and then
underestimated her. Yeah.
Feels the blade going through her heart. It's not just pain, but just, I can't believe this just happened.
Huge mistake she's realizing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. Big time. And then, of course, after the fight scenes and Storm walking, she walks over and picks up Angel. And at this point now, and she even says this, she says, to clarify, by law, by Morlock's rules, your leader, who is now down or dead or about to essentially is dying, I am your new leader, and because I'm your new leader, here's the deal. You're going to let us go, and you're all in fact welcome to live amongst us and come join us. And she invites them, and Caliban of course declines the invite, but does say, yes, we need to live in peace, X-Men and Morlocks together, with none of this violence. One thing to note here as well, before I go on, and I know we are going to kind of take another left turn here, so I don't want to leave this page yet. But with how this ends, it's interesting that she's it hints a little bit about how Nightcrawler asks, he goes, you don't do that, you don't kill, and you knew you had to kill to do this. Like, how did you even come to do what you had to do? And that's basically what her realization was. I had to do what I had to do if I wanted to keep my friend alive, someone who she cares about very much for. The other thing was, though, I feel like in the back of her mind, she knew, because it was clarified earlier, she knew that they had a mutant there that could heal to some levels, not the plague stuff per se, but to handle wounds and things like that. And I wonder if that also played a part into, just Storm being aware, part of her leadership and everything that she does, that, okay, like I can do this. And, maybe Callisto can be revived, at some point. I know Storm's priority was to kill, essentially to save Kitty as she was doing. But I do wonder if that played a part at all, knowing that, in the back of her mind, like technically there's this, other mutant that, maybe could save her. Did you guys think of that at all? Or was that something that crossed your mind with, her thought process of when she did step into the ring and move forward with this?
It didn't jump into my mind that she would have that knowledge, but it certainly would make sense that she would take that into account, and maybe it would just be one less thing holding her back in that fight. But no, I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah.
No, I did not think so either, because also that panel, that panel there on the right, look at her expression.
True.
And she says,
her faces. Yeah.
I knew when I made challenge what had to be done, Kurt. I never expected that of you. Neither did Callisto. That was her mistake.
That's a great
someone who's very aware of what she's done.
Right.
She doesn't regret it. She saved Warren. She saved Katia. And the rest of them. And now they're free to go.
Yeah. That's true.
A couple of Paul. Now, how Byrne would have done it, how Cochran would have done it, as good as they are, I don't know how effective it would have been if they had done it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah. I did want to, before we get into this last bit here, and I know we're right around the hour mark, a couple of other great comments from earlier. Adam saying the "oh shit" look, yes, from before with Callisto, and Brock saying when keeping it real it goes wrong. Yes, sir, that is very accurate. Old Wolf saying, I know everyone is here to see Gore, but don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Appreciate you, Tony. Thank you so much, man. Ryan the Callisto's poop in the man's face. These are great. These are absolutely great. We had Fatality hanging out with us as well, asking about Delta Dogs. Not familiar with it, but thank you for hanging out with us. And many more. Just wanted to highlight a few. Appreciate everybody's comments and hanging out with us here. The chat says, I feel like she knew she would win. There you go.
And the fact that she's carrying Angel out, right? This is a fully grown, really big, muscular guy.
Sure. That's true.
And she's just having her hero moment, right? She's just carrying him out.
Yeah.
It's wonderfully done.
JP taking jabs at Cyclops as usual. All right, we're going to go into this last bit here before we wrap things up. And of course, it is returning back to Cyclops and Madeline Pryor as they're waking up, which, by the way, I love his hairdo and how they did that as he's waking up. It's so accurate, as it says Dawn there. They stayed up all night as they were kissing there, and now they're planning to get food. But of course, there was a little bit of an incident here where she tries to take off his sunglasses, and of course, that's a no-no. He pulls away quickly and really could have killed her. So it's good that he did move away when he did. I think he kind of hit her though, or pushed her away. He did apologize, and she's very upset. Like, why did you do that? And hey, I haven't. This I found a little interesting. She said, "I've never seen you without your glasses, day, night, bright sun, or pitch darkness." It's been weeks. People, it's been weeks, and she's only seen him this way.
Well, they made out all night long, and
with the shades on.
Then,
I don't know if that's is he just a boss, or is that I don't know. Like, how do you I don't know.
It's a very Jack Nicholson moment.
Like you just you don't touch the shades, babe. And then of course he has to think about this. This is kind of a big moment where he actually says, okay, you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you why I reacted the way I did. He flips a coin in the air, zaps it with his powers, and explains that he's a mutant. And she realizes how serious that is. And I mean, one, she appreciates the him being trustworthy or truthful about it, and then two, just realizing how heavy it is, knowing at this time, especially after the recent reads that we've done with the graphic novel, that, you know, being a mutant wasn't a good thing or looked at as a good thing at this era, and for a long time,
Yeah.
you know, oncoming. But but of course you know, he goes, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. She goes, no, I want you to stay. Nice little ending there for the two lovebirds. Yeah, this is how the issue wraps up. So John, I'll pass it to you. What are your thoughts with kind of this last couple pages here?
I think we're, you know, we talk a lot about how the X-Men issues that are usually the ones we like the most are the ones not necessarily with the most action, but with the most character development. And this is the sequence where you get to see Scott putting faith or trust in a new romantic interest. So there's some great drama happening here. And as an audience member, I was somebody that was like, I don't know that I trust this girl. She's not Jean. I don't trust this girl. So there's that level of suspense for me as the reader. And so, yeah, I definitely appreciated the risk he takes here and how it works out.
Yeah. Gore, anything to add on how this issue wraps up these last couple pages?
Of course, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, as reading this romance that's developing between them, and this idea of, you know, she knows his favorite breakfast. And then she says casually that line, I'm a mind reader.
Yeah.
You know, and again, no exclamation mark. It's not for the, I mean, a careful reader will catch that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you know the Phoenix history. But again, if you don't, you don't. It doesn't matter. But you see, like John alluded to, basically, is you have these two people who are going to take a risk here. I mean, she seems to have no issue with mutants. And he is, when you really fall for somebody, right, you let your guard down. And so that line that he says, I don't know why I'm telling you this. And I'm telling you this because you want to get closer to that person, right? And you feel like you just have to just let that. You have to just let yourself go and tell them that.
Right.
Now you're making yourself very vulnerable by doing that.
Yeah.
Especially for a man. You know, men typically don't like to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big deal, you know, for when they do. It's like a barrier they have to overcome. It's an issue that many men have. And finally, he's taking this risk. She's taking this risk. And that's where it ends. But then just when you think, you know, okay, at the bottom it says the next issue, Rogue is in the house. So it's on that little bus, that little panel of Rogue in the bus. Oh my God. So Rogue is not going to be an issue here? Now you've gone through the Morlocks. You've gone through all this drama. Now you have this thing. You have, where's this Jason coming from? Why is Mind Master? What's going on here? Rogue? What? Huh? What? What is this? Dallas? Dallas was a hit show at the time. And Dallas had all this kind of drama on it every week. And so, yeah, this was, I mean, if the X-Men was ever a soap opera, this is it. This is where it probably started earlier, but if there is an issue, it's going to begin here. But the best soap operas, especially the Latin American and the Mexican
telenovelas,
are done.
We're in the meat and potatoes here.
Absolutely. A lot of meat, a lot of potatoes, and a lot of heavy breathing.
Love it.
Magic Lasso. No, we are in the era of Angel saying nothing, and we're grateful for it. We just want to look at him. He's just gorgeous. Let's just look at him and have Storm carry him around. That's all.
Poor Angel. He gets more than Scott.
Before we get into the money, or you know, the pricing and everything else that we highlight here, I do want to get your final thoughts and just how you would grade this issue overall. So John, I'll start with you. If you had to put a grade on this book, you know, what do you grade it? Where does it rank for you? And anything that you wanted to add?
I was messaging with a friend when I posted that I was reading this issue, and I was telling them how much I felt like this issue held up. Like there's definitely, you read some books and you feel like it's dated, it's aged, it doesn't quite work the same way it did for me when I read it as a kid. This was an issue that I feel very strongly held up really well. And that knife fight scene is still hits the exact same way it did when I read it the first time. So nostalgia feels aside, I feel like this is a solid 9.2. Like this book is just really a lot of fun. The only thing holding it back was I struggle sometimes with the like chopping around and jumping back and forth, but that knife fight is so freaking good that I'm easily able to put this up there in the 9.2.
Nice. Gore, what about you? How would you grade this if you were to put a number on it? And are there any final thoughts that you want to add here?
Yeah, the numbers are tough for me. I know you guys do this, and you're not the only ones, and I don't know how to do this. Especially one of those in grade books. And I don't think I have any. I think I have maybe 2 graded books, but that's a whole another story where I have. It'd be between 9 and 10, and I would say all this era basically, from 169 until the last issue that Paul's on for me are all between 9 and 10s. I mean, I don't know if it's 9.2, 9.3, 9.3, but between 9 and the 10s.
They're all
because, like John says, I mean, I read this comic as a preteen.
Mm-hmm.
Reread it as a teen with a little bit more experience. Read it in my 20s when I thought I had experience. Read it in my 30s when I had been through quite a bit of experience. And now over the decades, this is how good this damn book is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how it arrested you, could arrest a child, could arrest an adult, could arrest a middle-aged man or middle-aged reader. And it's a book that, in all this run, I think it's come to be known as From the Ashes. I think this brief run with Paul and Chris, and it's something that I revisit every once in a while, and I revisited it recently because of you all to be on your show, and it's quite remarkable how it has just really held up extremely well. And if I ever recommend books to them before to begin with the X-Men, the Phoenix Saga is very daunting for many. I think if they read this, they may be curious enough to go back and then read the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah. Love it. Well, I think I'm right there with you guys, and especially talking through this even more so. And I know we have these moments from time to time where, the show itself, the Omni X-Men show itself kind of brings our grade up. And I think that for me, I was kind of falling in that 8.5 range, which already is great. And hearing your guys' thoughts, the breakdowns, and going deeper into some of these moments, and just how heavy some of that was, like I think really brings this up to closer to like a 9.2, maybe even a 9.4 for me. I will say the artwork too was a huge draw for me as far as just what I enjoyed most about this. So the fight scenes, the storm catching the knife, like all that's going to be in my head forever. It just really, really well done. So and John, like you said, like even this end stuff, like I appreciate this, these side stories, these little romantic or not even romantic, but relationships that are being built on the side, little by little, and then even the Wingard stuff and leading us to just questions, right? Just asking more questions along the way. I think it's just well done overall. So I think this is definitely up there for me, and I'm glad that I read it because I always saw this cover, never read it before, as I've gotten into collecting comics, and I was always curious, like, with that cover, what this is about. So now that I know, it's definitely up there for me. So really, really well done. And I'm glad to break it down with you guys. As you see, Bobby here in the chat saying he would put 9.5. I like it. And Chet also up there with the 9.2 says, the knife brawl made this book a solid plate. And JP also agreeing. He says, get rid of Cyclops and it's a perfect issue. So there you go. I think that's pretty high up there. All right, let's get into the numbers real quick, and then we will wrap things up with our questions. So don't go away yet. Real quick, just looking at some of the numbers here. So we do have well, first of all, I had just put for some other, significance, moments of the book. Technically, Madeline Pryor's second appearance, if you want to go and count that. Storm and Callisto thrown down. I don't think anything else needs to be said in terms of, the key points to that. The 9.8 right now, fair market value. Again, these numbers
That's
are
crazy.
Yeah, $90. I'm surprised, especially because that solid red background, everything else. Like there's 173 on the census. I mean, I guess it's not that many compared to what we've seen with some of the other issues that are up in the 300s on the census. But man, I mean, I have a nice copy. I'm happy with mine, but a 9.8 would, certainly for $90. I feel like I don't think I could pass that up.
Right.
Are you about to show it, John? What was that?
I was just curious how mine looked, actually.
John does this from time to time where he just randomly shows a gorgeous 9.8.
I try to flex when I don't have a 9.8.
He's like, but I do have a 10.0. Like,
I have a very nice copy. I got the newsstand. I think you had a newsie.
Yeah, I got a newsie. Yeah. And then the drop down is $65 for a 9.6, and then so on and so forth. So very affordable overall. I mean,
absolutely.
My copy, I think I paid for $3 for it at Zap recently. And again, very nice condition. So I'm happy with it overall.
So when I get a really broken beat down one and have Albert cut out the knife fight and make a journal, are you going to freeze?
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Unless it's like a real love reader.
I think
copy,
I just made Chet scream. I
could
hear Chet scream from across the country.
You definitely did. Ryan's giving this a 9.4. Love it. We're all up there. Awesome. All right. If we don't have anything to add here, you guys, with these numbers, or we can jump into the questions.
No, none of the numbers now.
No, okay. All right, let's. I'll get rid of that there. All right, let's get into the questions. As usual, we have 4 questions total. We're looking for 2 correct answers in the chat. Make sure you type them as we ask them. If you see someone else write the correct answer, write it anyways, because if you're the second, you'll get a point. Your name will be added to our list. John's got an analog list there. We're going off of that will add to our wheel at the end of the season. So you could win some awesome giveaways and prizes, including artwork from Tim Stacey. Make sure to check that out. Check him out as well. I put his information.
I have been putting. I'm gonna crush the mystery box this year. I've been putting together an epic. So just buckle up, folks.
Nice. Up. I too have a couple extra things that I'm going to be throwing in this season as well.
Now we're talking.
Be ready, Albert. Get out of here.
He's still here.
You get out of here.
I was just talking to he's here.
Chet says Albert must be stopped.
No, you can't stop creativity.
Okay, so one last thing. If you want to, another way you can get a point. If you don't know the answers to last issue, you can try your best to make Gore laugh. So Gore is going to pick what he thinks may be the funniest or most sarcastic answer. So if you don't know the correct answer, you might as well throw out a funny one and see if Gore chooses yours as the funniest answer for each of the 4 questions. So let's get into it. John, I'm going to pass it to you first. What is your first question of the evening?
Yeah, so the last issue was our first time really experiencing the Morlocks and being underground and experiencing their world. But before they left, Xavier said no to a request that Storm made. What was Storm's request? What did he say no to? Storm asked for something, and he said no. What was it?
So we're going to get the music in here.
Because I like Woody Allen films, so I don't know how this is going to work. And I do like Time Bandits, as John knows.
So you gotta play to your judges, folks. So
Time Bandits, Woody Allen. I don't know.
He's dropping some hints here.
And the Tin Man movies. The Tin Man movies are great. They're romantic.
Oh yeah, well, sure.
Yeah.
Charlie's been watching. She just finished watching all those.
You have amazing kids, John. I've told you this in the past. I mean, but I think it's just the credit of you and your wife. Early on, you introduced the girls to films that your dad and myself grew up watching because that was nothing else to watch. And so they're going to learn to appreciate these in a way that it's going to be something for their peers as they get older. And it's just quite amazing what you and your wife have done, John.
Thank you. We try to give them as broad a view.
It's extremely broad. I'm always impressed. Absolutely with the girls. Yeah.
So I'm going to give it to Old Wolf and to Chet.
Okay.
Chet went above and beyond. But yeah, that's basically what I was at. Storm was asking for Rain to come along as a tracker, and Xavier put a no to it. So I'll give it to Old Wolf and to Chet.
Okay, there it is.
Although there's a lot of great answers. We should
couple funny ones here. So Adam says, "Make me a sandwich," is what was requested by Storm,
and he said no. He said no,
and Xavier says no. Candace said that Storm requested for more clothes.
Her costume has clearly been consistent throughout her time with us.
This is true. She's requested to stop creepily spying on teenagers to Professor X, which we certainly have had.
He's definitely going to say moments. No to that. He's definitely going to say no to that.
Tony, good answer. Another chess game with Kitty. she's requested. We did see some of that
You did.
in previous issues. Let's see. Ryan says to listen to "Endless Love" by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie first.
That one will do it. Yeah.
That'll do it.
Song at the time was so annoying.
That'll do it. Let's lock in Ryan then. Magic Lock for the win on that one.
Medical and dental. That's not bad.
Tony, yeah,
Yeah, my
Yeah.
wife's pretty.
Oh.
I agree.
much more awesome than John. Yes.
Respect.
All right. Let's get to the next question here.
No, wait. Did we pick? Did he pick Ryan? Is he picking the last
Yeah, I
one?
picked Ryan.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
So yeah.
I'm making it official.
Okay, my first question was, how did Callisto knock out Storm last issue? Something specific that Callisto did to knock out Storm. I had highlighted it because I thought it was interesting as an Omega level mutant being knocked out this way. It can happen for sure.
I mean, right.
It can.
But yeah, how did Callisto knock out Storm last issue? Okay, yeah. So this is
There it was,
okay, yeah. So different person though on the second one. So the first one I have here is Chet, Steel Marble, and Slingshot. So I was looking for Slingshot. That was the answer I was looking for. The second person to write Slingshot was Tony Oldwolf. So the point's going to go to Tony there. Sorry, Ryan, just missed out on that. But yeah, Slingshot. Shot her with a slingshot. Like a classic old school one that had like the wrist part too. Like,
wrist rocket.
Yeah, really well done. Yes. So yeah. Albert says gave her the poops. Yeah, I mean that's Plague. You're thinking of Plague. Albert.
Right.
That is something Plague could really, I'm telling you, if they haven't already, they really need to explore Plague a bit more. I'd love to see how Plague was in high school, with bullies and how Plague handled that. Because
that's how I got pink eye.
I can imagine.
Darn Plague gave me pink eye.
Yeah, I can imagine kids really, having to go to the nurse. So let's see. Albert gave her the poops. Let's see. Ryan says that she moonwalked, is how she knocked out Storm by moonwalking. Adam said just a classic boot to the head. I mean that'll certainly do it. Chet says with her Morlock stench, she knocks out Storm. I mean there probably was a stench at that point. Let's see.
It is a sewer.
Yes, remove sewer, stench shoes, and socks. That's how she knocks. So yes, very much so. Bobby, they went out for drinks. Let's just say that tequila was involved. Yeah, I mean
that will always
that can always
on the floor, passed out,
not remembering anything.
Nothing.
Yeah. JP says made her listen to Cyclops talking about himself, so she knocked herself out to make it stop.
Wow.
Harsh.
Well, boy, he plays that note really well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
that
at
one
least
note.
Not like Cyclops.
At least he's consistent. You got to give him that. Gore, any of these that you would like to choose as the oddball out or the funniest or wittiest answer?
No, at this point, that's okay. So
you certainly can pass if you would like to.
yeah, I'll pass on this one.
Wow. All right. In your face,
Okay.
chat.
Brutal.
My second question is similar to Justin's first question. Kitty Pryde faints in the sewers. She just faints. And my question is, why did she faint?
Good question.
Because we see her wake up in this issue, right? But yeah, she fainted. There was no fart. No, it was not a fart. That's not why she fainted.
Oh,
Bobby, going strong.
Oh, gosh. Buddy.
Albert's got one note and he's playing it like a champion. I got the two correct answers. I got JP. She was touched by plague.
Yes,
and then Chet saying plague touch.
Oh my God. See, and then later Plague could be in a band and later release an album called Touched by Plague. This is all
There is
stuff.
a band called-
I hope they write this out for Plague.
I bet there has to be a band called Plague.
Yeah, there
right?
has to be.
Touched by Plague, you know. All right, so those are the two correct ones, right?
Yep.
J Hood said, I mean, have you ever been in a real sewer?
That could be enough, right? Just the locale alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's
She
see.
tasted new Coke.
Right.
I mean, that's rough. That's
New
rough.
Coke could
This
do
was
it.
the right era for that, right?
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah, that was rough. Ryan was there too with me. I like
JP
Ryan.
said, meet an older guy that didn't inappropriately hit on her. No.
That would be rough.
Now that I'm an older guy who hits on younger women all the time.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I liked older women. Now that I'm older, I like younger women.
Maybe they've stayed the same. You've just sort of been lapping them.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you, McConnell.
So you've kept consistent.
That's right. This is why I'm such a staunch feminist. I don't think that's the definition of feminism.
All right, we're
got-
giving it to you, Lasso, again.
Yeah,
Going
that's
Lasso,
what
right?
again,
Okay.
Ryan.
There it is. Nice.
Ryan is just good on these things. He's always pretty witty. I always
He
like
knows
him.
he knows his audience there. He knows his audience. Last one, right? We're on last one is okay. What did Callisto forgot I worded it like this. What did Callisto chop off of Angel? Last issue.
Oh, this is not going to be good. This is not.
What did Callisto chop off
What you said.
of Angel?
Not good.
I think the
Not-
correct term was clipped off.
Okay,
Ah.
sure.
You know. Either way, it's not
What do you think of a bar mitzvah?
not ideal. Okay, so I got the correct answers in here. Oh, we got a good amount of them. I think Ryan was first. Is that right? Do you
Yep.
see that? Okay. Ryan first, pin feathers, correct. JP, pin feathers. That is correct. Yes, the pin feathers. She had clipped them off so that he couldn't fly away. That was her reasoning, so that he could stay and live down there forever with them and be happily married. So
It's
yeah,
one word. Chet saying it's one word. Pin feather.
he's not wrong.
We're not counting spelling on this one.
We're not count. We don't count spelling on anyone else but Chet. Chet should
Just
know
with
that by
Chet.
now. It's
Just
Chet.
with him.
We've definitely had incorrect spelling answers be correct that were other people. If your name is not Chet, then you're good. So those are good. Let's see. This one word. Yeah, I mean, see there. We'll get to see some. I mean, we figure some of these. Yeah.
Oh, geez, Tony.
Tony.
Hey, Tony. Good to see you, buddy.
Wasn't his sense of humor? Yeah, good to see you.
Just snipped his sense of humor right off.
Bobby said his dignity.
Mm. That's what he got the big diaper.
It depends. Chad says, "Oh, come on." Hey, man, life is not fair. You know, it is what it is, though.
His speech.
His speech. Chopped off his speech. Clipped a piece of his locks to save for later.
He has those beautiful golden locks. I can totally respect that, Candace.
Yep.
Put it in your journal.
Yep. His word balloons. His ability to speak in the issue. That's true. I mean, that's pretty accurate, actually. I mean, did not speak once.
Did not have much to offer.
Yeah. Gore, any of these interest you here for?
I like Candace's response.
Worthy of a point. All right, Candace on the board.
Because it's romantic. I like it. It's romantic.
There you go.
And this is a romantic issue in many ways.
It very much is. All right. Very cool. Well, there you guys have it. We're in the books there for this week. Appreciate everybody hanging, or if you're watching the replay, appreciate you as well. I want to thank Gore Vidal, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's so cool to just hang with you for the first time. I feel like I've gotten to know you over the past year or so, just hanging out in the chats and stuff. And so it's good to put a name to a face and to hear your voice and to get your thoughts, which always appreciate your insight. So thanks for being on.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you, John, for having me on. And if I may have a minute, I would like to recommend other people on the show, on the panel have them, but
please do.
In one of the comments, I mentioned the classic X-Men. And I'm going to highlight a few. I made a video on my channel of this story called A Love Story, and it's Jean waiting for Scott. And these were done primarily by John Bolton early on.
Oh, yeah.
And she's waiting the anticipation of him coming to see her. And she's just imagining everything that's going to happen between them. She's getting his clothes ready. It's absolutely stunning work that John Bolton did here.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful work. And the way these tied in, this one was tying in to this issue.
Is that issue 99 or 98?
98.
That's issue 2, issue number 98.
Yeah, I love that.
Right before they're about to go out.
Oh man, I got to read that.
And
wait, what? Sorry, what issue was that?
This is issue number
for a classic.
So classic X-Men
6. Okay.
Yeah, because classic X-Men 1 is giant size, and then it's boom, boom, boom.
Oh,
right after.
Okay.
And then
I just started collecting them.
They're so
issue
good.
34 ties in with this issue here.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, this is a wonderful story. Again, drawn by Bolton. This is one with Jason.
Yeah, I do remember that issue as a kid being quite captivating.
This is a stunning issue. And you have this girl who's serving him, but she feels quite degraded, you know. And she meets Emma Frost.
Man, look at the art.
She talks to Emma like,
all those little pieces they add on.
Yeah, why are you doing this? She goes, you feel like they cheapen you. She goes, I am the White Queen. Yes, you wear that outfit, and men look at you, and yes, it cheapens you. But when it comes to me, Emma, she says, but when I wear it, it cheapens them. Let me explain a few things about sexism, girl. It's all what you use it for, but it's really about personal domination. My clothes are my battle armor. I wear it to go to war. And she's about to go to war. Well, basically a chess game. This is a great issue.
Which issue is that one?
This is issue number 34.
Oh, man.
Issue 34.
I don't think I have that one.
That one. And this one I mentioned in the comment. Oh, no, I did not. This is the one that when Jean Grey saves the X-Men, this is a very painful issue. Because basically what Chris Claremont did here was what Jean experienced. Why she accepted the Phoenix. Because the absolute anguish of being destroyed by radiation. And that's Jean right there, just being tortured basically to death there by the radiation. But
which was all the stuff we never got in the story, where it was like instantly the Phoenix was part of her, and we never really saw this this amazing. So I think the first time I read 101 was this form.
Here, John?
Yeah. Well, that would have been 100, and then 101 would have been right after.
This issue number, can't see that, quite number 8.
So cool.
And I did see it. This is the one I mentioned in the chat about Magneto. How Magneto loses his daughter and the Ukraine. And it's a very painful issue. Let me show you the scene here. It's where is that scene? There's his daughter. The place is on fire, and she just leaps to her death.
Yeah.
And then he loses it, and he kills all the bystanders. And his wife thinks that he's a monster.
Oh, wow.
And this is him in Paris recollecting this moment, decades later. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah. And
the final one I want to highlight is not drawn by Bolton, but it's basically about Rogue and her first kiss. Wants desperately to kiss a boy, but Mystique is advising her, no, you can't have any contact with anyone, especially not with boys.
Right.
And when she finally decides to kiss a boy, this is what happens. She kisses the boy, but then she gets something she didn't expect, the whole history of this boy.
Oh, wow.
And she's just traumatized by it.
Wow, what a great page.
This is great.
Yeah.
The artist for this one, the writer for this one was Innocenti. Innocenti wrote this story. And the artist is, early Kieran Dwyer.
Wow.
So, yes, these are essentials. And they're
what issue is that one?
They're issue number 44.
44, okay.
Yeah.
Man, I just started collecting them, Gore. Like a couple, I think I have like 10 issues or something, 12 issues from.
You won't be disappointed.
Recent con.
They're not. That's a whole nother layer. to these stories.
A lot of them are only $1. I mean, you can find them in like a dollar
yeah.
bin,
Very
50-cent bin. Yeah.
I regret not buying that omnibus. It was so stupid because now it's like $200 to.
I didn't know there was an Omni.
Yeah,
$200. Jesus.
because they just don't print it often.
Yeah.
I think it was only been done one time, and it was just like a couple of years ago, and I wasn't into omnis at the time as much, and so just let it slip through my fingers.
Beautiful stuff. And one final thought on this: when this storyline ends from the ashes, in subsequent issues, there's a letter from a reader who was a long-term X-Men reader. He stopped reading the comic because he liked what Claremont did in this run with Madeline and everyone.
Yeah.
But he had an idea of what the X-Men were. I won't reveal it, but it's quite moving in his letter. He seems rather sincere. And now he's not angry at what Chris did, but something changed with Madeline and Scott's relationship that for him crossed a certain line of what the X-Men were to him.
Right.
It has to do with the Phoenix saga, what happened in between and here. And he said this would be the last issue I would ever read of the X-Men. This is how affecting this run was to some readers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Awesome. It's incredible. Damien in the chat says, "Hey guys, score!
Hey,
you got
Damien.
the mighty Gore Vidal on your channel." Yeah, man, we've been trying for years.
Love Damien.
We just booked it. Good to see you, Damien.
Again, I've done a video of one of these. If you go to my channel, you go to Gore Vidal Comics.
Yeah.
So if you type in Gore Vidal, you get the author, which is good. It's good to the actual Gore.
Yeah.
But you go to Gore Vidal Comics, X-Men, and you'll see a video of me showing off the one with Scott and Madeline. I mean, not with Madeline, with Jean Grey and Scott. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
I got
you both.
Absolutely. I gotta make sure I didn't add your channel. I gotta put your channel in the description. Make sure you guys are follow Gore. And of course John will be on John's channel next week. So again, to clarify, John, we're doing Wolverine
1 and 2.
1 and 2 next week.
Great stuff.
So be ready. This is my first time diving into this stuff. And
it's your first time, Justin. You've never read it.
Oh yeah, no.
Wow.
Ever since 143, I read up to 143 before this show. And then as John and I did this, I was rereading them. But now once we get to 144, everything else has been brand new to me. So week to week, week to week. So I read everything at least twice before we get into the show. So, but yeah. Oh, and John, thanks for dropping the link.
Yeah, it's in the chat. So if anyone needs Gore's link, wants to find his channel, it's right there.
And I'll add it into the description. Perfect. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. And we'll be back on John's channel next week, 9:00 Eastern. Get ready for some Wolverine. We'll see some, maybe get some posts going this week. But all right, guys, until next time, we'll talk to you later. Peace.